That is not from Streambeats. That is Slink's Knuckles track off of the YouTube audio library. And one of the many, many, many things we have to talk about with regards to music in videos and streams. What is up, everybody? This is Jay, aka MultimediaJay, coming live on YouTube for a discussion about the multimedia meta and a whole bunch of other stuff. So last night, during the middle of the night, we did a discussion about 2021 and things we have to get done and things we have to look at for 2021 as well, such as the TVs flaking out. Where am I going to take everything in terms of videos versus streams versus stuff from streams? What's on YouTube? What's on Twitch? How do I handle the processing times, which are so slow for YouTube streams that, you know, what do you do about that? Just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, the YouTube stream that I did last night, 5 o'clock in the evening, the following afternoon, it finally finished processing. At the same time, I'm looking at Discord, and while the stream was starting up, I was listed as streaming, but now that I'm actually looking at Discord, I'm actually being shown as active. Well, that's dumb. What if I want to talk about Discord DMs or something, or Discord posts on stream? Why? The integration with YouTube isn't quite what it is with Twitch when it comes to Discord and everything. And also, there's a very specific reason why I used Slink music for the intro to this, despite the conversations I've been having with Slink through Discord DMs. So we're going to talk about a few things here, and let's talk beginning with this whole Slink thing. So I reached out to him and asked, hey, you know, I'm looking at bouncing content between YouTube and Twitch more often, and I've just asked permission. Could I use his music from the YTAL on Twitch? And the answer is, I don't own the copyright for my music in the YTAL. And I know, of course, the license for YouTube is, the license for YTAL music is very specifically for YouTube. But the interesting thing here is, I have correspondence currently outstanding with Track Tribe. Track Tribe is an organization of various YTAL folks who've been making music together as an organization now. And I heard some of their stuff on the YTAL with some of the more recent releases, and I was like, this sounds very familiar. And I was like, I've heard this before. What is it? Well, what happened with Track Tribe is that artists, first of all, there's a couple of artists that have gotten together. And Silent Partner, I now know the origin story of Silent Partner. It was basically a project of Bryce Goggin and a bunch of session musicians after YouTube contacted them to make a bunch of songs when the YTAL was starting up, so there'd be stuff in the library. Now, here's the interesting thing. So, after finding out that he didn't own the copyright to his own stuff there, the artists don't submit their music to the YTAL. A Google employee contacted me and asked me to write X songs for X price. Okay, that corroborates. That's all I'm going to talk about in this discussion, because that's what matters. I've talked about some other things that aren't relevant to this, but that is huge. That is absolutely huge, because that corroborates also with the Silent Partner origin story as well. So what this tells me is that YouTube is the actor in this case. YouTube is the main party when it comes to any issues related to the YTAL. So if artists have to make music specifically for the YTAL, and then YouTube, it's probably something they have to sign off on, maybe some contract or some agreement or something as part of the licensing setup. But what this means is that the problems that YouTube has been having recently in the last couple of months with people plagiarizing YTAL songs and resubmitting them to Content ID under fictitious metadata. What's interesting about this is that what this means fundamentally is that it was YouTube's oopsie more than anything else when it comes to people plagiarizing the music. Now, if I go to my blog, multimediajay.wordpress.com, I have an entry for, let's load this up. I have an entry for compromised songs in the YouTube audio library, and I think I'm actually going to discontinue that unless the problem comes up again and I start seeing people getting Content ID claims for YTAL songs again. Because the links that I was posting to, like What Happening and all these other Silent Partner songs that were essentially plagiarized, the video links to all of these Content ID generated videos are all broken now. So it looks like this problem has been resolved. So I'm trying to extract, if there's any way possible, I'm trying to extract the original URL so I can check the video on YouTube, because I don't have any specifics in the message. It just says this video is not available, as opposed to it was removed by the user, it was taken down due to a copyright claim, it was this, it was that. So now the latest track to get this is the theme we opened with, Slink's Knuckles theme. But if I go to the bogus video on YouTube, which is misrepresenting those Slink tracks, I do not see content ID information like music in this video, just like I did with the "What Happening" or whatever it was. So maybe YouTube has quietly fixed it, and it's just an unannounced, an unannounced patch note, so to speak, or an undocumented change or whatever. But if I go to the video where someone is literally just taking Slink's Knuckles track and putting different metadata on it, it no longer has, unlike the last time I did this, information or any kind of content ID stuff. So I may very well just discontinue following this whole topic, because I think YouTube might have quietly fixed it. But another thing that I really have to think about with all of this is that if artists have to create stuff specifically for the YTAL, and it's an agreement with YouTube, or with Google in this case, then that means all these issues have been YouTube issues all along. It's not necessarily something you want to reach out to the artist about, because the artist will not have... It's the same exact thing, in a sense, as what's going on Twitch with DMCA, where people think they can reach out to individual artists for permission to use music in streams and things like that. But the truth of the matter is, it's about who owns the rights, not necessarily who made the song. A lot of times at record companies, the artists are signing over their rights and things along those lines. So the person that owns the rights, who can actually give you permission to use the music, is not the person that made the track. And the same thing too, of course, with this, I think some of the things that YouTube's talking about in their official documentation might just be, arse covering stuff, as we know companies like to do. So the license for the YouTube audio library is YouTube specific. There is no, I think it's more of the language of, we can't guarantee that you're not going to have problems with this music on other platforms. And I was thinking about that. Let's actually load up the YouTube audio library by going to my YouTube studio. And let's go straight to the audio library. Probably mute the tab as well. The YouTube license. You're free to use this audio track in any of your videos, including videos that you monetize. No attribution required. YouTube may credit the artists and link the YouTube audio library from your video. You may not make available blah 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 separate from the content that you've incorporated the music. That's very formal licensing type stuff. So if I look at the support articles for the YTAL, one of the things you hear about is it's licensed for YouTube. YouTube can't really say anything about what's going to happen elsewhere. And you got to think about that. If people have tried to misappropriate YouTube audio library music on YouTube with Content ID, what's to say there won't be bad actors trying to do that on Twitch? And this is interesting because I've seen streamers ask their fan bases to make like intros for streams, and some of the times I've recognized the tunes as YTAL tracks. So people with a YouTube background will submit like a stream opener for someone like Ginny TTY or something that'll have like a track or something in it, and I recognize it as a YTAL track. Now here's the thing. What if some bad actor out there tries to false DMCA somebody because YouTube isn't defending any rights related to the tracks off of their platform? So somebody uses a YTAL track on Twitch, and then some bad actor DMCAs on Twitch, YouTube doesn't get involved. That's the what if situation that you have to think about when it comes to the YTAL or any platform that is specific, any music library that is specific to a platform. The same rules apply with Twitch Soundtrack, and there are actually record companies complaining that they don't think the licenses are adequate for Twitch Soundtrack. But even if there was no issue, Twitch Soundtrack would still be Twitch specific. So what do you do when you want to send stuff over to YouTube? Of course, there is the separate audio, no music goes to the VOD. There's that technology that Twitch has, where there's separate audio streams where you can block music out of your VODs based on how you use channels, I think 1 and 6. So you do that, and then, but the thing is, Twitch winds up with the most boring version of your content. And yes, you can use YouTube's cloud editor once you're done sending everything over to YouTube to insert YTAL songs. but now you're inserting music that is specific to YouTube as a platform. So if you want to go to another platform, you got to do it all over again. So asset permissions has been a thing that I focused on for a long time. Asset permissions is the sort of thing which is the reason why I used royalty-free music in the early years on YouTube. It's also the reason why I started using the YouTube audio library, because at the time I was primarily using YouTube, wasn't involved on Twitch as a streamer, and maybe other than Dailymotion, most of my stuff would not even see the light of day anywhere other than YouTube. But in this day and age, where there's competition between Google, Facebook, and Amazon via proxies, the big three platforms, YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook, all three of which, by the way, have the same features, just different features are emphasized at different amounts on the platforms. On YouTube, of course, videos obviously are the bread and butter, but streaming is a rising star. Just today, I went and actually looked at my channel on YouTube. I went and looked at my YouTube page, and my YouTube page actually had the Brownville Deer Pantry, the deer channel with the live streams of the deer eating the oats out of the troughs up in Maine. So that was actually one of my top live channels in between NBC News and ABC News. I grabbed a screenshot of that. Probably send it to Twitter later on as a Twitter post just to illustrate this. But it looks like the YouTube algorithm is basically getting involved in your side panel, showing you who's live. Now, it's smaller on YouTube than it is on Twitch, but at least it's driven by what the systems think you'll like and not necessarily who's the biggest. Which does mean, of course, you can mess up your own results by trying to watch, doing research or something. But I don't know how pronounced that's going to be. I mean, if you want answers for questions like what would be called help content in some circles, are you going to look for live streams, or are you just going to look for YouTube videos on that? It's something I really have to think about with regards to how streaming is going to work on YouTube versus videos. Maybe some of the issues that came up with videos in the algorithms will not be the same with streaming in the algorithms. But it was really nice that the Brownville Deer Pantry, or I think it's the formal name is the Brownville Food Pantry for Deer. That's the name of it. Let's bring it up on screen here. I've only known about this channel, Brownville's Food Pantry for Deer. That makes a lot more sense. Okay, this channel only has, let me just put it on screen. Firefox, where art thou, O Firefox? The Brownville's Food Pantry for Deer. 30,000 subscribers, 754 concurrents for the Trough View stream. And on the left, in my subscriptions tab, I've got a bunch of nature cams in here, and I have NBC News and ABC News, because I've been watching headlines and stuff of news on here, particularly when there have been big events going on, like what happened with the Capitol last week. But you have ABC, NBC, big media, and this Deer channel is now in the middle between those two, telling me it's not about the size of the stream. It's about, and just to verify, though for copyright reasons we will not show NBC, ABC stuff on the screen, let me actually mute the tab and load that up myself. ABC News usually does a loop. 10.8 million subscribers, and ABC News' news loop on YouTube has 11,000 concurrents. Again, the difference between concurrents and the size of your follower base on Play, even though they are kind of separate numbers from each other. And then let's look at NBC. NBC News Now, live January 18th, 28,000 concurrents and 5 million subs on YouTube. And in the middle of those two, on my screen, is the little Food Pantry for Deer with just deer cams, 30,000 subs, less than 1,000 concurrents. That tells me that there's an algorithm side to how YouTube presents live streams. But let's get back to the point you were talking about earlier. The three platforms both have video and stream elements to them. Not talking like stream elements of the service. On Facebook, you have the video function on Facebook, and you also have stream elements. You also, of course, have Facebook Gaming and Facebook Live, depending on whether you use the FBGG or whatever for streaming. So technically, Facebook has two streaming options. I think those will get merged at some point. when Facebook has decided they're done trying to make a Twitch clone, kind of like what YouTube did with YouTube Gaming, essentially, and now you got YouTube Live and Gaming. But I don't know, I think those are separate from each other, because I think that the comparison numbers that I look at are just for gaming streams only. But really, we should see, I want to see comparisons for all streaming, so we can see YouTube smoke everybody with the amount of stream traffic that they're handling. So I think YouTube only looks small because it's game streaming in general, but if you take into account traffic cams, live cams, people vlogging, people live vlogging, and other stuff that isn't gaming specific, things may very well change very quickly and stuff like that. But I haven't seen any numbers on that, just game streaming comparisons and things along those lines. So, yeah, keep the cold ones handy at all times. I still have to felt bottom this thing, though. Had a week's vacation and now a night off, and I'm like, well. So, yeah, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. Now, what about Twitch video? You need to become a Twitch affiliate to get an upload button. I think the big issue, though, is the search ability is not there. I think you can search if you already know the video exists, but how do people find it if they don't already know that it exists? That's the thing. So I've actually tried to binge watch Twitch clips on various Twitch streamers' channels before, and I've been sent in a loop of like 3 clips for whatever reason. There is no real attempt to show me the entire back catalog of the most popular clips on the channel. So if that's changed, cool. Twitch really needs to publicize these things a little more. So indeed. So that's the thing. All three of these major platforms have some element of video and stream mixed together. So, in terms of music, Streamlabs is Harris Heller's project, and it's one of the things he can't stop talking about, and I understand why. He's trying to drum up support for it, obviously, but the big issue with Streambeats is that you're not really going to understand why Streambeats is a good thing unless you're getting involved in multi-platform content creation. So, knowing that the YTAL has limitations everywhere else and could be, subject to bad actors if people start doing bad stuff on other platforms to mess with people who use YTAL tracks outside of YouTube. The idea of a service that gives people something where they don't have to worry about cross-platform is something new. And somewhere between a question mark and a rising star. That's the thing. When it comes to the product development life cycle, you start out, who knows, then it starts catching on, becomes a rising star, then you get your cash cows at the top, and if things decline, they're a dog. I think that's a Boston Consulting Group thing. Remember it from college way back in the day. But Streambeats is something where you pretty much need to be a creator who's thinking about doing stuff on multiple platforms in order to find any appeal in it whatsoever. Otherwise, okay, whoop-de-doo. What? Wow. Like I used to say a couple of weeks ago, what's the point? And why doesn't Harris just put it all on the YouTube audio library so that it will be whitelisted on YouTube, the biggest video platform out there? Well, now I have my answer on that. If YouTube requires content to be made specifically for the YTAL, independent of what you already have, then of course Harris is never going to do that. Absolutely, he's never going to. He's going in the other direction. He's developing Senpai HQ, that house he's building, and he's talking about Senpai Records. At some point later on, he wants to eventually sign artists. I imagine that'll be some kind of agreement where you give up the rights so that people can use your music because it has to be copyright free and things like that. There'll be something, and there's even a license agreement for Streambeats. But I suppose since we're looking at all of this Streambeats stuff, we might as well link up the old browser, go to streambeats.com and take a look. Streambeats.com. Still, he's got to fix the typo where he misspells monetization. Let's link the old browser here. Browser, not going to link automatically for security reasons. Properties, link this up to Streambeats. There it is. Copyright-free music for free, EDM, synthwave, lo-fi, hip-hop, originals, and ambient. I know he's working on a rock album as well. The logo with the 2-headed dog is what you want to look for. I think somebody's already done stuff with Streambeats before, and check out this mouse over interaction. How it works. See here. Streambeats is easy. It's music that is safe for streaming and YouTube. Duh. I missed this last night. I was like, hey, a lot of people, it's called Streambeats. I wonder what happens if you're doing these kinds of things with YouTube stuff, things like that. Streambeats is music that is safe for streaming on YouTube. Either play it from your favorite music app while you're live or download it for free to use in your videos. Well, I kind of just downloaded it to load up into the customized Winamp that I use. So, worry-free, no DMCA, no demonetization, Harris, and no monthly fees. How it works and listen now gives you a link to Spotify, Apple Music, things along those lines. So let's see usage. If you want the peace of mind of actually owning a legal license, feel free to download it here. Well, let's do that. So if we look at the license, which opens in another window as predicted, does it actually link it up automatically? Yes, it does. Synchronization and master use license. This copyrighted material is being offered by Senpai Music Group LLC under the license. This is similar if you read the legalese with your use of other stuff. So if you read the legalese with this other stuff on YouTube, it reads very, very similarly that the property may be used solely and exclusively in connection with user videos that are contained on user's Twitch, Mixer, when was this written, YouTube, podcast, or equivalent channels known as user content in there, in perpetuity, etc., etc. And so the legalese is all there, that this is music made to be used when you're making stuff on YouTube, Twitch, etc., not to be sold separately and other stuff, which is a very, very similar license to what you see from the YouTube audio library. So let it be known from the beginning, straight on up, that this is all about giving people stuff they can use in their streams and videos. And so I know he's working on a rock album, but hey, here's something nice. Check out these graphics. Also, again, with the interaction with mouse overs and stuff like that. Lo-fi, EDM, synthwave, and hip-hop are available, and these are huge. Lo-fi is like 10 gigs of music. So it's basically MP3 downloading all over again. So, yeah, lo-fi, EDM, synthwave, and hip-hop. But the interesting thing about Streambeats is that it's platform neutral in a sense. Whereas the YTAL is largely set up for YouTube, and then results may vary elsewhere. And the inverse is true for Twitch Soundtrack. It's for Twitch, results may vary elsewhere. This, however, is platform neutral in this case. It's meant to be used with content somewhere. And that's what makes it interesting. So even though I had just looked at Track Tribe's contributions to the YTAL, now that I know that Google is involved in YTAL submissions, anything that I play from the YTAL, including that Slink song that we opened the stream with, is YouTube specific. It is in there specific for YouTube. So in terms of videos versus streams versus stuff from streams, now we got to think about this. If I want to, for example, feed stuff back and forth between YouTube and Twitch to take their underused uploads feature for a spin, if I want to do something like that, then we have to differentiate between stuff that's multi-platform and stuff that is not. So the stuff that's most likely to be multi-platform would be videos. Because do I really want to take the replay from a YouTube stream and just put it on Twitch as an upload? No, people can come to YouTube to watch it. It's completely redundant. The only audience that will pick up from that is the audience that is always on Twitch, never on YouTube. And this assumes that the audience on Twitch is interested in the same stuff as the audience on YouTube. So, non-gaming stuff on Twitch is expansion categories. And other than just chatting, I mean, let me just go to Twitch right now and take a look. Fire it up. We're streaming on YouTube. It's not going to mess with my Twitch stream if I do this, because there is no Twitch stream to mess with. Twitch.tv, mute the tab. Make sure to mute the tab in case something's... Oh, the site's already muted. Okay. Oh, Kyungi got shortchanged. She's got the not like this face as her thumbnail for a big podcast that she's doing. So let me see here. The browse the directory and look at the expansion categories here. Just chatting, 392,000 viewers, which is eclipsed by Rust with over 500,000 concurrents between all the channels. And what does that break down to, by the way? Yeah, okay, Rust. Wellen, 11 grand. Coconut, 5 grand. Sear, 4.8. Talia Mar, 4.4. A bunch of streamers with a couple thousand concurrents are at the top. And then it drops down to, you basically, it's a who's who of Twitch. the more concurrent you have, the higher in the list you are, and the less people have to roll to get to you. So if you're somebody just starting out, you're way down at the bottom. Who is down at the bottom right now? Oh, this might be using a lot of CPU because, yep, and I actually have to do that before the Rust fad dies off. The web browser is getting slammed. It might be lagging the stream because of everything it has to do. It's definitely a RAM issue at this point. I can't use Control Home as a shortcut on Twitch. What kind of stupid idea is that? Come on, Twitch. At least I can still sort by viewers low to high, unlike in just chatting. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zero-viewer Andys. 5 zero-viewer Andys at the bottom of the Rust category. People who haven't figured out yet that your dashboard counts as a concurrent, and you can give yourself a concurrent via running a copy of your stream on a second monitor, which is handy because if you want to check something quickly, you just unmute it and listen to what it was a couple of seconds ago with the latency or something like that. Comes in handy to be able to see what it is that your audience is seeing. And that gives you 2 concurrents by itself. So anybody streaming a 0 or 1 viewer doesn't know how to use Twitch very well. The end. Until that gets patched out, of course. But why would Twitch do that? I mean, they already have a rotten reputation for not supporting people that aren't already established, so that wouldn't help things in that department. So let's look at these expansion categories. Among Us is down to under 100,000 concurrents, by the way, and it's 5:51 p.m. U.S. East. So 432 something on the Pacific, on the West Coast. So let's see here. Where are the expansion categories? Chess, does that count? No, that's a game, technically. Stardew Valley, Dead of Night, VR chat, talk shows and podcasts. So remember, just chatting had hundreds of thousands of concurrents. The category is 7.1K, 7,100 viewers. It's tied with VR chat right now. So there you go. The category that I use when I stream on Twitch only has 7,000 concurrents. And how many people are in there? Let's sort by viewers high to low. $2,500 for one person doing a podcast who's pretty big. Then you drop down into the hundreds. So you can actually get to the bottom of this. You can get down to where I am very quickly with like 1 or 2 scrolls of the mouse wheel before you get to the 1 viewer Andys and the 0 viewer Andys who don't really know how to use Twitch very well. So nowhere near as sad. Oh, and it dropped down to 6.8K viewers, by the way. So talk shows and podcasts, expansion category, small. Where's science and technology? It's hard to find because everything's done like a bunch of DVD covers on here. Deus Ex, League of Legends. No, that's League of Legends Wild Rift. So this is the part where we start seeing expansion packs counted as games. So, interesting. Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is at $2,000. There is a sci-tech category in here. Where is it? Space, I might just have to look for it directly. Yeah, I'm having a hard time finding it in the directory, which is, again, the problems with the browsability of Twitch. It's like Netflix gone wrong. Final Fantasy X, 672 viewers. Maybe I passed it, I don't know. Let's see if I did. Control F, science. Yes, I did. Retro is at $5,000. Where is... Now I gotta find where it's highlighted. It should be somewhere. Okay, 5.1K viewers. Expansion category for science and technology. The biggest sci-tech streamer is at 430 viewers. But it takes a while. It takes longer to get down to where I'd be in sci-tech than it does in talk shows and podcasts. So, plus sci-tech, in terms of brand association, what people think about with the sci-tech category on Twitch, it's all over the map. You have people talking about rockets in space. You have people looking at pet ducks and friends, basically animal sciences. And then you have tracking earthquakes, coding. There's a lot of people coding on Twitch. So people developing video games. So it's all over the place. Some people doing web development. There's someone even live streaming some barn owls somewhere. So that's the sci-tech category on Twitch. So again, expansion categories, not exactly, catching up to YouTube anytime soon. So yeah, Twitch versus YouTube, they emphasize different things. Streaming, versus everything else, as well as games versus everything else. Still a thing, still an expansion thing on Twitch. Whereas on YouTube, established with videos, working on live streaming and things along those lines. All right, while we check out, see what do we have here? Let's check out some stuff related to Streambeats, specifically take a look at some of these tracks. So Synthwave in particular, Hazel's Comet. This is interesting. We're actually going to turn up the thing here. Let me close Discord right now. It's still not showing me as streaming on YouTube. It did briefly when I started, but the minute I started looking at Discord, it switched me back to being active. It's weird. Maybe I have to close it or something. But let's bring the background music up to 15%. So this is from Streambeats Synthwave. This is Harris Heller's Synthwave Streambeats project, and I like this the best so far. I've only listened to a couple of tracks. We're going to check out some of the tracks in here. And the big thing I like about Streambeats Synthwave is that it's the most similar to a style. Those of you who maybe have some 90s experience will know that in the 90s, as part of the Gen X influenced, fight the power, fight the system, rebel, bad day, alternative type thing, there was crossover music that did everything it could to not take up a style. And there were people I knew at the time, even disc jockeys, who didn't like that. They're like, why can't rock be rock? Why can't rap be rap? Why can't dance be dance? Why is everybody trying to do everything? And they're basically one of those deals where you're trying to be everybody to everybody and you end up as nobody to nobody. So, based on what I've listened to at Streambeats so far, I think we're looking at a situation where I like Synthwave the best because it's very, very 80s. So they're actually trying to take up a style, as opposed to I've never been able to figure out lo-fi. Sounds a bit like hip-hop, but it is supposed to be chill. I can imagine it as chill background music so you don't have silence going, but I just never gotten into lo-fi. Trying to find out what exactly... It reminds me too much of 90s crossover music, where they're just trying not to take up a style, trying to attract the biggest audience possible. And quite frankly, I like music that makes a statement instead of trying to kiss everyone's asses. Okay, check this out here. Now, by the way, what is old is new again? This streamer aesthetic, like Geek House Dark Mode, I like blue with a little bit of purple. It's inspired by the background from Kubuntu Linux. But what I really like is that if you look at, old pictures and whatnot, this is basically an 80s club type thing. So I remember there used to be blue and purple backgrounds for school pictures when I was a little kid in the 80s. So even into the 90s. And I always went back and forth with my folks about that. I want the big laser beam background in my school pictures. No, you're getting traditional blue. Number one, the laser beam background costs more. Number two, it looks like there's freaking laser beams going through your head. Well, anyways, so maybe, maybe that's what add a little reverb. Most synthwave sounds like 80s music made in the 70s from what I've heard so far. But add a little reverb, and why not? Has a little style to it. And hey, if you're going to do something ridiculous like this, you might as well take up a style while you're at it. Hazel's Comet. This is my favorite one so far. That's a little short. Doesn't even hit the 3-minute mark. But you know what that reminds me of? The introduction to Grand Theft Auto Vice City. I'm talking like before the title screen, when you see like the boats going around, people jet skiing and things like that. You know, the reason why I'm thinking synthwave, you've seen what Dr. Disrespect has done. He's basically taken the 80s badass thing, and his color is red instead of blue. But, you know, the thing is, there is kind of, you know what? Before I even knew about Dr. Disrespect and what he did, there's a YouTuber by the name of Tronic Box who was taking popular songs off the radio and making 80s remixes of them. And he made it look like VHS with a lot of blue and purple and stuff. So that's really this aesthetic. This is kind of just a darker variant of it based on a Kubuntu Linux background from the 2010s. But anyways, the stylistic roots of it, I mean, let's check out some others here. It's just a little short. This music is actually designed to be background music, and some of the tracks really kind of sound like that. So let's actually take the ear trumpet volume on that, drop it back down. That was the only one I really wanted to play full blast. We'll cut it back to about 10% for this. All right, let's get that going again. Let's check some of these other ones out. We've got it on total shuffle, total random, and what's the link? It's a little on the soft side with the compressor. All right, let's try this one. -1. We're going to do a lot of skipping around in the songs, by the way. So maybe we should do some kind of like music listening mode and stuff. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of a dull stream. Skip around. Yeah, this would be good for background music. And again, the lack of reverb. It sounds like 80s music that was made in the 70s. So, it makes me want to add a DSP to this Winamp if I can find one that's not like adware from 20 years ago. And put some reverb on this to make it sound more 80s-ish. But I think the license actually has a ban on derivative work type stuff. I don't know, though. I can get the same effect just by playing it through speakers and having the room reverb get into the recording. So, I think I run into a synthwave, as it often seems like there isn't enough reverb to make it totally 80s. But you know what this reminds me of? Anna Yvette's Redline song was very, very 80s, and I think that's why I liked it the most out of many of the NCS songs that I was listening to at the time, because it actually took up a style and whatnot. Let's see. Try another one. Notice me? What's this? I've only seen him play a guitar. It's at 10%. Let's bring it to 15%. So this gets the background music up to what it was like, say, around 2015 or so in the YouTube videos. And actually, when I don't talk, it gets up to the end of the green bars in the mixer. Compressed too, though, to kind of try and keep the output level the same no matter what. But radio stations do this stuff too. This is not bad. It's just only 2 minutes. Don't know if I really want to use that for like an intro video. What's this Quasar track that cracks the 3-minute mark? Hey, what's this one? What's some of the longest songs here? This Because the Night is 3 minutes. Skip around. Freelancer? Cloak and Dagger? Yeah, some of this sounds kind of like what Dr. Disrespect would do. Alright. Yeah, from a day and age where synthesizers were the new toys in the music industry, and the general public and the record companies hadn't gotten over the new toy fad. Same thing happened in the 50s and 60s with electric guitars. The Beatles, in particular, were known for playing with special effects a lot, with the really old equipment they used to make their hits. I think it was either John Lennon or Ringo Starr, one of those two, had some kind of really fancy listening room with primitive surround sound and special tape recordings that would play over the speakers. I forgot who it was. Ooh, guitar! Okay, this one's got my attention. This is what Hachi Roku 222. It's got a guitar solo in it. We're going to listen to this one full volume. Bring it up to about 75% and mute the darn mic. Take this in for what it is. That's one that I absolutely would flag as a favorite and set it up for like production stuff, like an intro song or an outro song. But these are largely 2-minute songs though, so they're shorter. But that's something I don't really mind, because one of the things that we got to keep an eye on with the technology for this kind of stuff, and I'm starting to think I should have put this under music for a category, but one of the things we got to remember is the technological deprecation of the Start Soon screen. You think about Start Soon screens from an IT perspective, they're a grotesque waste of resources. Literally the same video over and over again, just so people have a chance to tune into a stream. Facebook openly discourages them, as I found out from their own literature for Facebook streamers, and also how Facebook operates with their discoverability for streamers and whatnot. But YouTube, and Twitch will probably catch up to this at some point, YouTube has a schedule streams thing, but because of the way YouTube does streams, where the streams have their own page, and it's by stream and not by channel, you can schedule a stream like a half hour before it starts. People get the notification or whatever, and they're there, and you have a really short intro and then get going without needing to load everything up with data. In other words, not have all this redundant video data on their systems. You can skip that and just do generic HTML-y type stuff. There's also the intro feature from Premieres, which if it was expanded to live streaming, would basically mean you uploaded a loopable Start Soon screen, so you had one copy of it on YouTube's systems, and not literally like copies and copies for every single stream that you stream on YouTube. That's a big technical thing that I want to keep an eye on. But I think, though, from an IT perspective, Start Soon screens are exactly the sort of thing that should be removed from the streaming meta as we know it. Because literally, it's just a workaround. Some people have had some really interesting Start Soon screens to give people time to show up when they get the notification. But I think there's more than enough technology out there to cut those down to just like a TV intro or something, and then do things that way. Let's get back to some of this music here. Set ear trumpet back to about 15%. Or set Winamp and ear trumpet back to about 15%. And let's see here. Yeah, I like this. It's got a guitar solo and everything. Skip around till we find something. little bit darker to this one. Of course, it's called Cloak and Dagger, so... TI-84? Really? What does that sound like? Oh, so close. So close to It's My Life there for a second. Very artfully done, though. This one's not too bad. Got that too. What else? So I think the biggest issue that I have listening to this stuff is that it probably would make really good background music, but nothing really jumps out at me enough, even the good songs, to want to make it a main theme that's in every single YouTube video for a series. You're gonna have to keep listening, maybe pick something or whatnot. But again, if we want the opportunity to send stuff over to Twitch and use their underused uploads feature to populate the channel with content, especially when the Twitch exclusivity doesn't seem to apply to uploads, just to live stuff streamed on Twitch, might be something I want to check out. The only way to do that is to have music that is cross-platform. So Streambeats would be it. The question is what to use. Too blippita bloopita. What's that TI-84? I do have a mullet wig that I could go get to, you know. It's from a 70s thing that I did. It's from a 70s-ish thing. Probably some 80s-ish, like, mullet wigs and stuff that I could get if I really wanted to. That would just be... yeah. Some of this is starting to sound like each other. Especially the keyboard claps. That very much dates everything. That could be an end screen. Nah. A little bit more guitar mixed in. 88 mile per hour disco, huh? It's a simulation. Yeah. Is that a Tron reference? Still, the more I listen to synthwave, no matter where it is, I want to add a reverb plugin, because that's, again, the whole 80s music that sounds like it's from the 70s. It just sounds out of place. If you're going to go silly 80s, you might as well go the whole way. Nah, wrong one. Bring it up to 25%. Might start stepping on the toes of speech. San Francisco, yeah, I can understand why. Banhammer. Yeah, okay. I think Hazel's Comet does pretty well. All right, I think that's enough of that. Let's check out the other genres. I don't think I'm gonna resonate as well with the rest of the Streambeats genres as I do this. Let's check out EDM. I was watching a comedy routine about EDM and how repetitive it is. Let's see how he does here. Well, he gets the bass drops right. See, the problem I have with EDM in a stream is that's one of those things everybody does. You know, they'll take a game that they're playing, mute all the audio, and just have EDM going in the background while they're talking through like a crappy microphone setup. Take that. Imagine this. They put the microphone near their webcam so that the keyboard is in the line of fire. They don't look at the pickup patterns, and so you see them playing a game looking all pretty on camera or whatnot, and click, 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 literally everything they do in game makes it into the stream, and it's just so jarring to get so many things right. And then so the soundtrack is click, 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 them just saying random stuff to chat while like this, because they're just casually playing and stuff like that. And then EDM replacing all the in-game audio. This is like, you know, when I first went to Twitch, I wanted to just see some games, and I could never see them because everybody was swapping the audio with EDM. So yeah, it's just the sort of thing that kind of resonates with me in terms of stuff like that. There's gonna be more skipping, I can tell. See, what's this? Come on, where's the 4 on the floor? It's supposed to be EDM. Oh, no thanks. Never been into trip hop stuff. Red is sus. Oh, here we go. Snap tracks. There we go. That infectious thing that's gotten into all kinds of music, even country music. Country music with snap tracks. Spare me! No. Oh, what is this? Pseudo rap? There is a hip hop album too, by the way. This is starting to remind me of some of the stuff that you see on the YTAL nowadays. It looks obvious, or sounds, I should say, obviously like something someone just threw together to put on the YTAL. So earlier years had a lot more, it sounded more like studio tracks, like with what Silent Partner did, Ethan Meixel with Metal and things like that. So again, this whole thing of have the guts to sound like you're taking up a style instead of doing crossover stuff that tries to sound like everything and sounds like nothing in the process. A great example of this, by the way, every single 90s pop song that had some variant of well, sounding like you're taking up a style is not how you're not alternative if you do that. So song after song. You think EDM is repetitive. You think EDM is repetitive. And they say the 80s was when people went too crazy with synthesizers. What is this? Yeah, if I want to sound like every single streamer out there, I'll just mute all the audio and just play that, and then run around playing League of Legends or something. Why is it nobody watching me? I'm only just like every single other streamer out there playing MOBAs. It would make for a good parody. Old guy plays LOL for the first time. What is... I think that would get... I think what that mean... I think that translated would probably get the stream demonetized. Harris did that with some shirts a while back. EDMCA. What the heck could this sound like? Now keep in mind I have listened to more than my share of 4 on the floor music over the years. So, it's not like I'm totally opposed to the genre or anything, it's just I hear it so much in streams that it just seems unoriginal now if I go swapping the audio for this. What do they do for hip-hop? Let me guess. Way too much use of that tick 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 beat that you hear in like everything. It's like the hip-hop answer to snap tracks. There we go. That didn't take long. First song. It's almost as bad as that 90s thing I was just talking about. Just give me some DMX or something. I wonder if anybody involved in hip-hop music detests that tick, 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 tick beat. Kind of like how some people are sick of snap tracks in just about everything. All right, lo-fi, the biggest one. 10 gigs to download this stuff. This is probably yet an O, and Harris has actually given himself some credit with the tracks. So, this is actually the sort of stuff that I think I've heard some commentators use in their streams, and you just can't tell what it is, because it's supposed to just keep the background from being totally silent. Yeah, let's do this one. Like I said, I really have never understood lo-fi. %15 on the levels. Let the compressor do its job. It's like we've created a successor to elevator music. using today's synths. I'm not trying to put the audience to sleep. Of course, if I do need to do a chill stream, this is perfect. It'd probably be perfect if it was so soft you could barely listen to it. Very close to the notes when you get a Starman in a Mario game. Yeah, did the world really need a lo-fi Starman theme? Yeah, I'm an idiot that doesn't understand lo-fi. Yeah, I know. That's... it's just, yeah, background music that is made to specifically be background music. I know it's a thing, but it's just trying to figure this out here. I'm not just looking for that, though. I'm looking for stuff that can play in the background and come into the foreground for production material. Intros, outros, transitions, montages, all that lovely stuff. Oh, skipped one. There's a bunch that say Mac OS. I wonder if they only work on Macs. And this is the stupidity that I exhibit by actually trying to listen to lo-fi. It has its place in terms of your stream not being completely silent, but in terms of taking up a style, might as well go 80s. You've already got the lights for it. Why not? All right, we'll check that out later. So I think what I'll do then is if the YouTube references on Twitter are not broken, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the Tronic box. There's the Goat Yeast song or whatever it was. Someone that I used to know. That's probably my favorite 80s parody on Tronic Box's channel. We'll repost that to Twitter to bring back that YouTube classic, so to speak, just to illustrate some of my points about the blue and the purple and things like that. And now there's music to match. So I think really, when it comes to Streambeats, I'm most interested in Synthwave and the rock album that Harris is working on. Because in those cases, we're looking at stuff that corresponds to a genre that maybe will have something besides the current trends, or the current trends in music like snap tracks and that tick-tick beat that you hear in half the darn hip-hop that's out there, so that I keep running into. So remember, 90s influence, so I'm used to things like, say, DMX or Puff Daddy or something, or even early 90s rap as well. So, heard a lot of different stuff over the years as people tinkered with stuff, but when things become trendy, they become worn out very, very quickly. So, when I saw the rant about snap tracks in country music, I was like, yeah, way too much pop fluff influence. And heck, I called it pop hop in college, because I knew some people at the radio station that did rap shows, and they never played any of the stuff that was on the radio. Goes along with the whole thing with college radio, where you don't play mainstream music because everybody else is already playing it. So the college station is where you go to hear different stuff or indie stuff or stuff that's up and coming. And college radio has a long reputation for a lot of successful groups who couldn't find success any other way began spinning their music on college stations when the rest of the music industry wouldn't even talk to them for whatever reason, bureaucratic or otherwise. 6:30 at the Geek House. I think we shall call it here with all of this discussion. So that's kind of my first impressions of Streambeats. I'm probably going to check out Synthwave and the Rock album when it comes out to see what Harris puts into these albums. But I think lo-fi has its place. I just made the idiotic mistake of trying to listen to it instead of just having it in the background. And as a wonderful example of this, let's actually load the lo-fi back up, put Winamp at 7% and illustrate this just fine. We're still okay, so let's load the lo-fi and let's see here. As if you don't want silence in the background, lo-fi is actually incredibly good for not stealing the show. If I put it back down at 7% and then try to talk about stuff, see, yep, as soon as the disc spins back up. And some of the stuff that I've been using from the YTAL recently, like Noir et Blanc V and whatnot, was part of this. Now, let's just pick something that doesn't take forever for the beat to get going. Skip. There we go. I mean, if you don't want things to be completely quiet, then this works. It's like, hey, how is everybody doing tonight? Does the weather suck where you are? Is there snow? Da-da-da. We're going to talk about these hot issues in the news, blah, blah, blah. So-and-so celebrity got divorced yet again, da-da-da-da-da. It's just like, all right. There's this drama on Twitch between these three streamers. Somebody else finally got sick of playing Rust. See, this works for that sort of thing. If you're not even paying attention to what's playing. And that's kind of what lo-fi is made for. Just chill stuff that gets in the background and stays there. I'm the idiot over here trying to actually listen to it like music. And you think about like the shopping music of 80s shopping malls or elevator music or things like that. It's kind of the sort of thing. Some music is just better off staying in the background because that's what it's made for. We shall end with a Slink track because I know full well that streams will be specific to their platforms. There will not be any issues with streams on YouTube that should be on Twitch and vice versa. So we'll keep this going and it'll actually keep working quite well. So that's Streambeats. To check out Streambeats, head on over to streambeats.com. My concerns about Streambeats are still very much on the table. So, top concern I have is when Streambeats becomes too popular relative to the size of its music catalog, do you get to the point where it gets like certain tracks on the YouTube audio library where you start recognizing the popular tracks that everybody's playing because you know it's from Streambeats, or you know that a bunch of people have played that, and it takes away from the originality of your content. So that's actually something I gotta think about with regards to this. But the whole music thing, that just got a lot more complicated. If I'm talking about bouncing stuff between YouTube and Twitch, platform-specific stuff, like the YTAL, isn't exactly what I'm looking for. So, let's see here. And by the way, to the person that left, because I said this is where we'll call it, rule number 1, some people, it ain't over till it's over. Alright. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.